Yes, children, very good morning. All of you, I hope all are fine. And as a part of discussion, ninth standard economics, second chapter, previously we have seen what is human capital formation, what is physical capital formation, and how is it possible to make use of population by making them educated, by making them wise, by making them experienced, but in what way we have to spend money, particularly on education, research and training. Unless we make people so wise, it is not possible to keep the country's economy in progress. For that, what actually we need, particularly we discussed education. So, what happened actually in case of literacy rate, how actually it increased from 1951 onwards, and according to 2011 you have seen the literacy rate of India is 74.04, and even in that there are wide differences between male to male and female, and also region to region. So in that way you have find some important differences. Now today's session we are going to see health. So how actually health plays important role in shaping the country's economy. So here health, particularly this health realizes the ability or the potential of an individual. The health realizes the potential or ability of an individual to fight against his illness. So, if you are healthy, it is possible to increase your productivity. If the workers are ill, it is not possible to increase the productivity in the industry. So, that's why the population must be healthy in the country. So, here, if people are unhealthy, if people are not healthy, it is not possible to maximize the productivity of any country. So that what you have to understand. So here children, you have to understand, even our national policies are there on education, policies are there on industries, policies are there for children. Our national policy particularly on health, what actually it speaks about particularly improving the accessibility of health care. The national policy on health actually speaks about accessibility of what? Accessibility of health care. That means everyone should have access, everyone should have a facility to have to take treatment for their illness. And also, even it speaks about family welfare and also nutritional services. Our health policy speaks about family welfare and also nutritional services. So that's why just observe in what way the government is trying to improve the nutritional status of children. Just take simple example, even we discussed in the education also that midday meal scheme is working in order to increase the nutritional status of children, particularly even in order to reduce the dropout rates of children. And even you can see the pre-primary school, what we call Anganwadi schools in villages, and those schools are working for the improvement of nutrition status among the children as well as among women. In that way, actually, we can see some steps taken by the government, even those were mentioned in the national health policy. Next, this all with a special focus on underprivileged segment of the population. Underprivileged, that means in the society some poorer sections are there, so government focused on such sections, SCs, STs, backward class people and weaker sections of people. Particularly by focusing on such sections, the government needs to improve their health status. And even over the last 5 decades, government actually has increased vast health infrastructure, and even it increased the manpower. It accommodated manpower required in the industrial, agriculture, and also service sector, particularly industrial and service sector. By focusing on the health of the people, this health sector accommodated manpower in the industrial as well as service sectors also. That's what you have to understand. So, health infrastructure has increased. What is health infrastructure? Infrastructure, we already discussed. Infrastructure means the facilities which we require. Under that, I told you already that economic infrastructure, social infrastructure. What is economic infrastructure? Economic infrastructure includes transportation, communication, banking, power, all insurance, all these come under economic infrastructure. What is health? What is social infrastructure? That is health, education, sanitation comes under social infrastructure. So here health infrastructure particular. So health infrastructure means what? In order to provide very good health, in order to increase such facilities, what we require? We require some hospital buildings, we require some doctors, we require some nurses, we require some community health centers, we require some primary health centers, all we require. So here I have mentioned even some abbreviations which are there even in your textbook also. Just to see the second chapter in your textbook, I have mentioned those. That is what. Once again I am. What are SCs means? That is subsectors, primary health centers, community health centers, auxiliary nurse, hydrides, ANMs means, RM means registered nurses, RM means registered midwives, LH means lady health visitors. In this way, by spending more and more amounts on particularly health sector, we could increase the number of all these. Even you see the page number, even they have given, that is page number 24 in your textbook. We can see all this. How? By spending more and more amounts on such, the number of dispensaries increase, number of hospitals increase, number of doctors increase, number of primary health centers increase. That all you can see. Just it is shown in the textbook also. See here, all of you. In 2013, the number of subcenters 2017. And next, even doctors also, dispensaries, beds, registered doctors, nursing personnel, under that ANM, RM, LHV, all are there. Just to see your textbook and you can have little idea about that. And coming to the next one. So, by spending more and more amounts on health sector particularly, what actually we achieve, that you have to understand. So there was a very good improvement in 4 important things what they have mentioned in our textbook. That is a very good improvement in life expectancy and even mortality rate and crude birth rate and death rate. So first of all, in order to see all these, how there was improvement in these, you have to know the meaning of life expectancy. Life expectancy means what? On an average, how many years an individual live? On an average, that means how many years an individual actually live. See, in our country, according to 2014, 68.3 years. That means on an average, one person is actually living nearly 68 years. If you see some countries in Africa and even some countries, some other countries, their life expectancy was actually 40. Of course, now it is somewhat 50, 55 like that. So, because of the improvement in the health infrastructure, particularly in our country, because of the number of increase in the doctors, increase in the number of dispensaries, hospitals, the life expectancy of India increased to 68.3. Actually, it was earlier it was 65 years only. Understood? So, in that way, life expectancy increased in our country. Next, infant mortality. What is infant mortality rate? That is the deaths of children per 1000. Deaths of children below 1 year of age per 1000 newly born children. Try to understand what is infant mortality rate. Deaths of children below 1 year of age per 1000 newly born children. For example, in your village, of course not in your village, in your district, 1000 newly born children there. In that 1000, how many children actually die before 1 year itself? That is called infant mortality rate. So if the deaths are actually if deaths increase, that is not a good sign for the progress of an economy. So if the deaths increase, that indicate the health facilities are not there. The government is not concentrating on treatment of such cases. So that's why the number of deaths should be reduced. Understood? So that's why in 1951 it was 147 per 1000 it is. You have to remember this also. For 1000 newly born children, 147 were actually passing away. 147 died before 1 year itself. And here in 2016 that number is 34. Is there improvement or not? Yes, there is improvement. We could successfully prevented the number of deaths particularly before 1 year. Understood? So that is infant mortality. Next, birth rate. What is birth rate? Number of babies born for every 1000 people during a particular period. In 2016 is 20.4. That means in your village this year 2020 the population is 1000. In 2021, if 10 new children come to your population, the birth rate you can tell that is what? 10. Understood? So how many will be added for every 1000? That is considered as a birth rate. So even birth rate also completely came down. If you compare with the independence days, particularly 1947, 1950, 1960s, it was around 25-30 like that, but the birth rate completely came down. That is a good sign for the progress of the economy. This is birth rate. And death rates, the number of people, that is what, per 1000 who die during particular period of time, per 1000. So for how many, for every 1000, how many people are actually passing away? For every 1000 population, 1000 persons, how many actually dying? That is called death rate. So according to 2016 it was 6.4. That means for every 1000 nearly 6 people are actually dying. That is called death rate. So why I have explained all these, because the government actually increased its expenditure particularly on health infrastructure. Because of the improvement, because of the increase in the health infrastructure, you can see a better conditions in case of life expectancy, infant mortality rate, birth rate, death rate also. So that's what you have to understand, children. So see, some questions even are given in your worksheet based on the table. Just try to write those answers. Next we will see a very important problem for our economy, that is unemployment. Yes, children. So previously we have seen the health, the other important aspect under the second chapter, people as resource, and finally we have to see unemployment. So what is unemployment? How do we define this? See here in one line, how do we define unemployment? When people who are willing to work at the going wages cannot find jobs. That means even though the individuals are willing to work at the existing wage rates, but they are unable to find any kind of work, such situation is called unemployment. I will repeat once again. Even though some group of individuals who are willing to work at the existing wage rate, if they are unable to find any kind of work, such situation is called unemployment. Then here, particularly to whom actually we consider that situation. To whom actually it is applicable means only not for the entire population, only to the working population. So what is working population here? That is generally in population you can see this is children. This is called working population, and this is 60 and above is called aged population. This is children. Understood? So in this 15 to 59 we have to consider this. Understood? That is called working population. Of course, you may think that that is 15 people who are studying 10th class, even after 15 people who are studying intermediate graduation. But here working population means the age group of 15 to 59 is considered working population. So in that we find unemployment particularly. Understood? Then this unemployment actually varies. You can see this unemployment both in rural as well as urban. The difference is there between the rural unemployment and urban unemployment in its nature. Particularly in rural areas, you can find two types of unemployments. But here they are mentioning particularly in urban areas, they are explaining about only one unemployment, that is educated unemployment. That means even though they are educated, particularly the people who have completed SSC, intermediate, degree, post graduation, even though they have the required qualification, but they do not get any kind of a job for a long time, such situation is called the educated unemployment. That particularly that you find in the cities, particularly towns, particularly in urban areas. Whereas in rural areas, we can find two types of unemployments. One is seasonal unemployment and another one is disguised unemployment. What are the two important unemployments we find in the rural areas? One is seasonal unemployment, another one is disguised unemployment. What is rural unemployment? In case of rural unemployment, people are not able to find jobs or work in some months. People are unable to find work in some months. Such situation is called seasonal unemployment. That means in some seasons, particularly you can see such situation in case of agriculture. In some months, particularly sowing, harvesting, weeding, such activities are taking place, the people get work. If those works are not there, people remain unemployed. So such situation is called seasonal unemployment. Just take two important states like Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, the states which are actually good for sugarcane production. Particularly in case of sugarcane, at the time of starting the crop, people may get more work. At the time of harvesting, people may get more work. In the meantime, in the middle time of that crop, people don't get any kind of work. So that's why the people who depend on such activities, they remain unemployed. Such unemployment is called seasonal unemployment. Even you can take Anantapur district, our Anantapur district. In Anantapur district also, you can see at the time of particularly in rainy season, particularly most of the farmers give importance to grow, particularly groundnut. So in only most of the agricultural workers get work only for few months. The remaining months they are unable to get work. Understood? So this is seasonal unemployment. Next, what is disguised unemployment? Disguised unemployment, in a simple way, how do we define disguised unemployment? Means the people appear to be employed. But they are unemployed. That means if you find the situation having labor more than required, that situation, that kind of unemployment is called disguised unemployment. What is disguised unemployment? The situation in which we find having labor more than required. For example, you want only 10 people to complete a work, but in your family we have got 13. So all 13 work together, but that work can be completed with 10 people. 13 are actually working in the field. Even if you remove 3 people, the productivity will not be affected. The 10 people may get the same kind of productivity, same kind of production. Such situation is called disguised unemployment. Disguised unemployment particularly seen in agriculture sector. The marginal productivity of such 3 labor, such extra labor is zero, even sometimes negative also. That is very important. The disguised workers marginal productivity is zero, even sometimes negative also. That's very important. That what you have to understand. That means no use with such extra labor. Such kind of situation you can find in case of disguised unemployment. So children, so unemployment is also a major problem. If you find more and more unemployed in any economy, the entire population, particularly such kind of population, will become liability for the economy. That is not an asset, that will become liability, like debt. So the government has to see, the government has to engage such workforce in other sectors. That's why in any economy, the two sectors, particularly the industrial sector and service sector, should work actively. Then the extra labor force which is there in agriculture sector can be accommodated in those two sectors. Then it is possible to keep our country, our economy in progress. Thank you.